Now that we've got our login URL part working, let's work on the registration portion. So let me go ahead and stop this. And I'm going to do this. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. I'm just going to do this as simply as I can think of it, and that is to make a separate scene for the registration UI part of this. So I'm going to come down here, create a new scene, and I'll call it registration. And I will double click that to open it. And I'm going to walk through a lot of the same steps that I did when I created the login portion of this. So I'm going to go in here, select UI, and click panel. And this will be the registration panel rather than the login panel. And from here, I will select some text. I'll move it up a little bit. And as before, I'll change the title. Center it both ways. Let's put our nifty little charge in font in there. Make it a little bit bigger, probably too big. Green, there we go. I think I mentioned at the end of the last one that we don't use registration very much. That's certainly true that we don't use the sort of traditional unlock code anymore. But I think you're probably going to find a lot of use for this kind of functionality because you always want to know who your players are, and you always want to be able to get data back from your game as it's being played. So it's possible to actually collect all kinds of data coming off of your game. And Unity has some services that help you do this. Essentially, what I'm showing you how to do is to bypass that and just make your own. And I think that's important for a programming student to know how to do rather than just rely always on a third-party system. All right, so there's our registration. Let's add some fields. We know there's going to be 4 or 5 of them. So we'll create the first one as usual, and then we'll just duplicate. So we'll start with a text label. And we'll say first name, and we'll send it over. We'll center it. We'll make it a little bit bigger like I did last time. And in a perfect world, I'd color match them, but that's okay. There we go. I will go ahead and make this darker, though. I think this would look better if it were a little darker. Okay, perfect. Or good enough, I should say. There's text. Let's change the name of this. So this is txt title. Excuse me, no. Label title. Okay, and this is label first name. You certainly don't have to use my naming convention if you don't want to. And let's do UI, input field. There we go. And we'll call the input field txt first name. And I'll open this up and I'll change the name to first name text so it's easy to see when I drag and drop that onto my controller later. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now I've got LBL first name and text first name. I'm going to select both of those in the hierarchy, press Control D to duplicate them. And I'm going to do that a few times. So let's see, it's first name, last name, email address, password, and registration code. Okay, so now all I have to do is go back and change the text. I'd probably have to make that a little bigger. I'm so used to testing with the Fleet Speak password that I almost typed it there. Okay. And that's good. And then we need to go over here and change the names of these things. So actually not that one. That one's going to be txt last name. This is a little tedious, but necessary. Oops, did I get it backwards? That's password. What is that? Okay, that's label password. I'll check them again here in just a second. Label registration code. And then txt registration code. Okay, I'm going to pause for a minute and take a quick look, make sure I got all these right, and I'll be right back. All right, I'd only missed one, and so they're all fixed now. Really, you just want to make sure that it's set to something you can recognize. Probably the most important one is down in here, where you set first name text, last name text, because that is where your errors are going to creep in, because that's what you're going to be using to get the value. So make sure those are right. If the rest of them are not right, then you can get away with it. All right, so that's all good. We also need a button. So let's add a button. And let's call it BTN register. And let's change the text to register. Set our font. All right, all set. Now, that's our, I'm not going to go ahead, I'm not going to set the placeholder text on all those. You get the idea. All right, so that's fine. We've got our form set up, and now we just need to basically do the same steps that we did earlier. So we need a wire up registration, which means we need an empty game object. I'm going to close this up so that it's not quite so omnipresent. And let's add an empty game object here. I'll call it script host. And let's add a script to this. which we will call registration controller. And we'll launch. And that was uncharacteristically fast. And now we're going to do a lot of the same stuff that we did earlier. So let's add using Unity Engine .ui. We're going to need that. And we're going to need the networking package again. So using Unity Engine.networking. Let's get rid of start and update since we won't be using them. And let's add our button handler like we did before. Actually, we called it register, right? Register.click. Underscore click. There we go. Okay, let's switch back over to Unity and wire that up. And if you noticed, it got a little funky there. It's actually waiting on the script to compile. And once everything comes back okay, then it'll give you the UI back. But if it stays like that, then that usually means you have a script error. Okay, so let's go to our register button. And as before, we'll click plus and we'll drag our script host in right there. And we'll select the function we created off of registration controller, which is the name of our class or our script. And it should be in there, but I don't see it. Usually if it's not there, you don't see it, that means you didn't save. So let's go back over to Visual Studio. Let's see, I didn't. Shame on me. Save it. If you really want overkill, save it and build it. And let's try that again. There it is. Okay. Let's save it. And we should be able to click this and see our message. You clicked register. The console window, you clicked register. Wonderful. All right, the next video we will make the script.